Yesterday, I showed you a phenomenal video by a young man who did the due diligence necessary to point out yet another one of Trump's lies. During Trump's address to a joint session of Congress, Trump talked about a female athlete who had her athletic career ended when a trans player, allegedly, spiked a volleyball into her face, and she suffered such dramatic injuries that her athletic career allegedly ended, but she still played volleyball, softball, and basketball, did quite well at all of them, and continued to post highlights of herself playing after that. So it was all a lie. The part about her ending her athletic career. Now it appears as if her getting hit in the face by a trans athlete is actually potentially not accurate. Let's just...
How a transgender athlete spiked the volleyball into her face, ending her athletic career.
So great video by that guy about Peyton McNabb, who was invited to the State of the Union the other day and shouted out because she allegedly had her athletics career cut short when a transgender athlete spiked her in the face with a volleyball back in 2022. But not only did she continue her athletics career, as that guy very much pointed out, I did a little bit more digging into the story, and it turns out that there's not any actual evidence that the person that did this to her is trans. Now, any story you read about Peyton will say something sort of like Trump did the other night, that she suffered a traumatic brain injury when she was smashed in the face with a volleyball. But as that guy pointed out in his video, she was posting her highlight packages from basketball season 2 months after that happened. The only reason it ended her volleyball career is because volleyball season was over and she was a senior. But something I noticed as I was digging deeper into this whole debacle is that Peyton McNabb actually joined Huddle, which is a social media site where athletes can post their highlight reels 8 days after the supposed traumatic brain injury incident on September 1st. Kind of seems like an odd move for somebody that thinks their athletics career has been ended. Something else I found as I was digging around is that Peyton McNabb actually gave testimony during a bill hearing in North Carolina about how this was such a tragic event. But seeing as she was currently playing softball, she couldn't go with it ended my athletics career. So she put a slightly different twist on it. Let me know what y'all think.
I was unable to play the rest of my last volleyball season, and although I'm currently playing softball, I'm not able to perform as well as I know I have in the past because of the injury.
Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a pretty big sports fan, and I've heard of things like tearing your knee, blowing out your Achilles, throwing out your shoulder, injuries that you can get past, but you're maybe not as good afterwards. But I ain't never heard of no concussion or really even neck injury where you can get back to playing, but now you just suck 30% more. But finally, the main thing I noticed when I was digging around is that every article said things like the student who is allegedly transgender, or things like Peyton McNabb says that the player with the powerful spike was born a man and playing on the women's team. But then finally I found an answer that neither the school where the other athlete attends nor the North Carolina Athletic Association would confirm or has confirmed that this student is transgender, and the student also hasn't come forward. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, she is a woman, why wouldn't she just come forward and clear all this up then? And I would remind you that Amani Khalif happened. Remember when a boxer that all the MAGA people claimed was a man came forward and said, hey, I'm actually a woman. I've always been a woman. Her parents were like, hey, here's photos of when she was little, and none of that mattered. Oh, and on top of that, even the Russian organization that claims she failed a gender test was found to be deeply corrupt and not even recognized as a real organization by the Olympic Committee for years prior to that. And none of that mattered. Still, to this day, 98% of MAGA will tell you that a man won a gold medal in women's boxing last year. And I would also ask, if this person is transgender and everybody knew about it, like Peyton McNabb said, they were 10 games into the volleyball season in this rural North Carolina school district. You mean nobody had made a fuss about it? There wasn't a single school board meeting, nobody freaking out. Riley Gaines or Charlie Kirk or any of those right-wing outlets hadn't run down there. They didn't have like a transgender athlete tracker that seems to spot every single one of the 12 of them that exist in the country. Like, nobody had made a fuss about it up until this happened. Not a word. Seems strange to me. But while that girl will have to remain in hiding for at least a few years, otherwise face tens of thousands of death threats, Peyton McNabb, whose volleyball team was 1-7 when she played, and her only basketball highlights are steals, meaning she's not very good, got invited to the White House, got to go to the State of the Union, and was recognized at the State of the Union. Oh, and by the way, is also having a documentary made about her. And that documentary is called, and I wish I was making this up, Kill Shot: How Peyton McNabb Turned Tragedy into Triumph. Really? Like, this is a definition of rewarding mediocrity. And keep in mind that all this hysteria is over volleyball, a sport that, as adults, we play co-ed in basically all bar leagues across the country. And that's because volleyball, even though there's an occasional freak accident, outside of that, it's a pretty safe sport. So if they can do it with this, they can do it with anything.
The level of scumbaggery that exists in not only this White House, but this young lady's existence now is staggering. Shame on you, Peyton McNabb. Shame on you. You managed to finagle your way into 15 minutes of fame on a bullshit lie. Because you're what? A subpar athlete looking for some attention? Unfucking believable.